Medicine Hat has so much potential. I mean, we're just blessed. And I want to make sure that we capitalize on that potential, and I could be a small part as a councillor in helping a new council.
This episode of Bring Back the Porch, brought to you by Bernie Leahy, River Street Realty. Let's get you home. And joining me on the porch now is our former mayor, former city councillor, Ted Clugston. Welcome back.
Well, I appreciate the invite.
Well, I'm glad you're here because I've got a lot of things that I want to ask you. And the first one was, why are you running again? Last time you and I talked, you were home and cooled. You had about 2 years since the last election. You were so relaxed. You were so calm and collected. Yep. And when I saw you decided to put your name in again, I went, what happened?
Yeah, I used to joke that I was tanned and toned.
Yeah.
And retirement has been wonderful, actually. I highly recommend it. For the last 4 years, I wasn't fully retired, but semi. Obviously, I don't want to dwell on the last 4 years too much. I think everybody's aware of what's happened, and I thought a lot of people thought I probably was going to run for mayor, and I did seriously consider it. Discussed it with my family at length and friends and advisors at length, and was really pushed hard to run for mayor. But as you said, I looked relaxed and seemed happy, and I thought maybe coming back as a councillor would, if I get elected, would be the right role for me now. I have a feeling that we're going to have quite a few new councillors and perhaps a new mayor as well. And I think that with my experience that, I can help a council if the new mayor is willing to ask, for advice. If he or she is interested in that, I would be glad to do that. I mean, obviously I did it for 8 years. And I think one of my gifts was consensus building, which has been kind of lacking in this last 4 years. Medicine Hat has so much potential. I mean, we're just blessed. And I want to make sure that we capitalize on that potential, and I could be a small part as a councillor in helping a new council.
One of the things you said at the forum the other night was that when you fly in a plane, you want to make sure that your pilot has 10,000 hours of experience and didn't learn how to fly via YouTube.
Yeah.
You want a doctor to have that training and didn't read it out of a book. Yeah. So I think your key platform in your plank in your platform is experience.
Absolutely, 100%. And I even thank you for bringing that up, because I do believe that. Why do we think, and I mean I know why we think so little of politicians that we don't expect the same standard from the people we elect. As I said, your life depends on it, on when you're getting on the WestJet flight. I mean, if you found out that the pilot had no experience, you would get off the plane. But when we elect a city council without experience, we don't take it as life and death, perhaps, but it is important. You want councillors and a mayor that has some governance experience, perhaps business experience, volunteer, charity experience, and then maybe run for council first and get that experience, and then perhaps become mayor someday. So I do truly believe that we need to stop this popularity contest and really look in the credentials of the people that we're electing.
You said at the forum the other night, too, that Medicine Hat is on the precipice, and that caught my ear. Falling into something or pulling back from the precipice? I don't know.
I'd like to fall back from the precipice and not fall into it. I use that term because, we've lost 4 years. I used to say that, when back in the days when I was on council and stuff, we used to build great, big, wonderful things, and we had the courage to do it, and we acted and not talked. So I'll just give an example, like, the Viner Center, the berms, berming the entire city was a massive project, and we accomplished it starting in 2014 we started construction. The leisure center, the event center, all those things, the fire halls, 2 new fire halls. That was unprecedented to do those kinds of things. Obviously, we have not had a single capital project other than maintenance, storm, water, sewers, roads, those kinds of things that you have to do anyway in the last 4 years. Another 4 years of that, we start falling behind. We already are, I believe. We're falling behind Lethbridge and Red Deer. And of course, I don't think we can compare ourselves to Calgary and Edmonton, but now all of a sudden you almost have a lost decade, right? And I think that would be unfortunate for Medicine Hat. And so hopefully we can fall back from the precipice and maybe move forward.
When you said precipice, the first thing that came to my mind was financial precipice, that we're running out of money.
Mm-hmm. I would say we're not. I mean, the reserve funds are larger than they've ever been. Of course, you may remember, well, you know everything. You have a good mind for remembering old stories. That I was the one that initiated the Heritage Trust Fund, and now I know they've changed it and dabbled with it, but it still basically exists. And the idea behind that was we are making a lot of money mostly from non-renewable resources, and that one day they may not be there. Same as when the Alberta had the Alberta Trust Fund, and there actually is $700 or $800 million in there. I mean, on a per capita basis, I would say there's no community in this country that has that kind of cash stores on a per capita basis.
And that's from the foresight of previous councils that you were on. Yes,
and I'm going to give this council credit. Actually, they didn't really dip into it.
Tempting,
very tempting. So that's why we tried to call it the trust fund. I had hoped when we'd set it up that it would be political suicide to touch it. And it was meant to stay there and grow for when a rainy day. Now you can argue it's a rainy day today. It's been a rainy day every day every time I was on council, it's a rainy day. And I was actually saying to you just before we started that, you try not to take a dollar from the taxpayer before you absolutely have to. So in a way, the trust fund goes against what I just said, because we have all these taxpayers' dollars and they're sitting there, but they are earning interest, and they are for a future when there are no renewable resources or electricity. Now, what happened with this council is they got very lucky because previous council built 2 new generators, and that was a huge risk. They were $50 million each, $100 million worth of generators that we built up in the north by CanCarb and CF. And I remember council went back and forth, almost fistfights, in closed council, and to build those because of the cost. And then we built them, and they paid off. With the high electricity rates. Now, the goal was not to soak our own residents, but to sell onto the grid and make money when the prices are high on the grid, and basically soak Calgary and Edmonton, to be honest. And it worked. But unfortunately, they didn't keep track of the local prices and ended up having to rebate a bunch of money. It would have been so much easier just to watch the price locally than have to take the money and then end up having to give it back. It's very inefficient.
And that also led to the formation of a special interest group where people were up in arms about how much their electric utilities were, the costs, the rates. Yep. And now we see them fielding some candidates in this race.
Yep, and holding forums or Porch, whatever you want to call this, podcast like this. So, which I participated in, and have quite vocal and have quite a following, actually.
So they are active, and maybe that's a good thing, because too many people just sit back and after the election they mark their ballot, they go,
"Yep,
here, deal with it. I don't want to worry about it for another 4 years."
I call, obviously in municipal politics you don't have an official opposition, but a lot of people in the community, like the ratepayers, will form an official opposition. The Chamber of Commerce, although they try to work with council, they do advocate on behalf of business, and I used to call them the official opposition. So in some ways you have 4, 5, 6 official oppositions, which is healthy, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it gives you different points of view. You don't want to have everybody singing off the same song sheet necessarily.
Nope, and that's the beauty of municipal politics as well. No parties, 9 hopefully sentient individuals from different walks of life whose Venn diagrams may not even cross over. The only reason they are crossing over is because they ended up on council together. But you got a teacher who talks to their 500 people over here and a business person over here. That is the beauty of municipal politics, I think.
It's also the closest level of government to the actual voter or taxpayer.
Absolutely.
Because Ottawa, you're far away, you're an MP. Edmonton, as an MLA, you're a little bit further removed, but when you, and Graham Kelly used to tell me this, the job is 24/7, because when you're in the grocery store, somebody comes up, they want to talk to you about something that is number one in their mind.
Absolutely. You actually sometimes can't go grocery shopping anymore, because if you just go to get a loaf of bread, it takes an hour. And your family's like, he just went for bread. What's he doing? But yeah, I used to go into every grade 6 class because they do the 3 levels of government in grade 6. And I'd say to the students, which level of government have you interacted with the most today? And this would be at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I'd say, they would go, I don't know. I'd say you've interacted with the municipality 100 times today and you don't even know it. If the federal government, unless you're getting a passport or you've got some sort of criminal conviction, you're really not interacting, or you're paying your taxes. The provincial government, obviously, if you're in school or healthcare, you're interacting. But from the moment you got up, from the water in your shower and your toilet, the pools, the parks, the playgrounds you passed, the police officer you saw on the way to school, the firefighter who maybe put your neighbor's fire out, like you have interacted with the municipal government. And so it's as you said, the front line, and the most important, the quality of life. If you want a quality of life, you have to have a good municipality and a good municipal government.
That interaction between the councillor and the elector usually used to be face-to-face.
Yep.
But now in this day and age of social media, you've got keyboard warriors, you've got people, it's so easy to spread disinformation or to form an opinion based on half a fact or a little bit of truth, or I heard this from somebody. How has that affected you personally in social media? Because you have been a target.
It's horrific, and it's unfortunate. It is a wonderful tool, though. I mean, you go door knocking, you're trying to talk to people. It takes hours and hours to reach 3 or 4 people, maybe. You can reach a lot of people on social media. So there is the positive, but the misinformation or the outright lying, the anonymous comments, they're sometimes vicious and unfair. I mean, as I was saying to you beforehand, somebody started a rumor that I was delivering signs in a limo. Where did they even come up with that?
It was a Hummer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a Hummer limo. And I'm just like, that was creative. It was a creative lie, but what possessed you to make that up and say that about me? And very unfair, right? And that's just a very simple rated G comment, because there's a lot of rated R stuff.
Do you think that social media perhaps kept some people away from the political process? Because I don't need to deal with that.
Why would you? Frankly, you've got a wife, you've got children, you've got a husband, you've got family. They read it. They see it. It hurts them. I always say, you want to come after me, whatever. But when they start coming after my kids or, spouses, that's not right. No. They didn't ask for that. And I was actually really wondering about this next election because it was so harsh. The last council was so harsh and took such a beating. Would anybody stand up? I actually thought maybe we wouldn't have record numbers. So to see the record numbers is quite interesting, I think, frankly. You got to give kudos to anybody who put their name forward. I mean, what the kind of beating you take it's pretty tough.
And city staff also took a lot of that in the neck too through social media. They did.
Senior administration, and they have in the past. I mean, when I was on council, they took it as well. But please just try to make sure that you know what you're talking about. Yeah,
you're either part of the problem, part of the solution.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do have a problem. Offers. So when you used to not have social media and you ran into somebody in the grocery store, you could answer their question. They say, "I heard this," and you go, "Well, no, it's maybe." Like this. I'll give you an example. I remember when we hosted, we put up the Christmas lights and the street lights, and usually we take them down in January, early February, and all of a sudden they weren't down till the end. Till later, and they were still up in the middle of February, and I started getting these horrific comments. Why are you leaving the Christmas lights out? Why are you wasting electricity? And you're an idiot, and you're the worst freaking mayor I've ever seen, and all this stuff, on and on and on. I said, we're hosting the winter games. They asked if we could keep the lights up while we hosted the games. It's just as simple as that. It was just I could have had that conversation in Safeway and answered that question.
Yeah, but people like to build up the tempest inside and get all angry over nothing.
Yep.
Yeah. Some of the issues that we are looking at in this election campaign, probably the one at the top of the list is a municipally controlled corporation to perhaps take some of the responsibility for the operation of our utilities, energy department out of the hands of city council. Your thoughts?
So it's a difficult one, but I'm going to tell you that I'm not in favor. For the most part. I don't want to sound like a politician. 125 years, city councilors have been elected. The governance issue, you tell them the what, they figure out the how. The administration does the how. We want to grow this to $1 billion utility. Now you go and tell us how to do it. And it's worked. Frankly, I think it's worked quite well. There have been lots of mistakes in the past, but what we did as councilors and mayor, we hired the best people. We stole from industry. Especially during downturns, like in the oil and gas industry, when there's a downturn, we would steal those people with experience. Retta Hagelin, who was the CAO, she came from Statoil, like from Norway. Like, I mean, we're talking some talented people with experience. Bob Nicolay is another example. And then he or she would hire good advisors beneath. So I think when it goes back to that experience that I was talking about, you elect the right council with a combination of experience or board experience or volunteer, like I was saying, they can get up to speed and learn the business and hire the people. The problem is I don't blame this past council as much because they didn't have the experience and they got overwhelmed. And I think what they were trying to do was the right thing. They felt this is a very important part of our history, our utility. We can't screw it up. And some of the councillors felt that they weren't qualified to run it. And that is at least being honest, and right, not trying to take on something that they couldn't handle. And so that's how they ended up going down the MCC road. So when I say that, I say what happens, we get a good council this next 4 years with lots of experience, and the pendulum swifts back to, and then they're going to go, oh, you should have done an MCC. Because at least now the new council would inherit that and wouldn't have to take on that. But so my answer is no.
Okay. All right. Spending money. You talked about some of the big projects that came in when you were on council. There is a thought right now that perhaps we need a Southside Recreation Center.
Yeah.
Would you be in favor of that?
Yes, I would be. I actually campaigned on it last 4 years ago. We're falling behind. Our residents are going to Lethbridge for facilities, to use those type of facilities. You got to, the Esplanade. I'm going to use the Esplanade. If you remember 20 years ago, how divisive, probably more divisive than the event center, I would say. I mean, ripping up petitions and throwing them in the garbage back then. I wasn't on council then. And the location, of course, where location is always the number one thing. And now, even myself, who wasn't for the Esplanade 20 years ago, it's a fabulous facility. I use it all the time. And a lot of people who swore they've never darkened the doors are there now all the time. And it's a sense of pride in your community, right? I was at an ABBA concert 2 weeks ago. I love ABBA. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. And the band, they weren't real ABBA, they're impersonators, and they said, what a lovely world-class facility you have here, and your staff are wonderful as well. Now, they may say that everywhere they go, but they actually meant it because it is a world-class facility, and you get the world-class entertainment if you have that kind of facility. An Abbey Trivia band is maybe not world-class, but, it's the bands that we've had through here. We've had Slash in the building or, those kind of things. So, and the sense of pride of having one of the best theaters in the world, I think, is civic pride. So, that to the Leisure Center, that to the Event Center, because we can host a Memorial Cup if we ever get it. Our Viner Center is arguably the nicest seniors facility in the country. You could argue that for a city our size. And so I do believe that those investments pay off in pride and, hopefully population growth, those kinds of things.
Amenities are one of the things that help attract business
Yep.
to come invest in Medicine Hat. And without them, you have an even harder slog than maybe what you have right now.
In the old days, I don't think they really cared, but now it's the first thing they ask. I'll give you an example with doctors. I used to recruit doctors, physicians to the city with actually Bernie. And they had narrowed it down to Red Deer, Lethbridge, and Medicine Hat. We were their top three. And I'd say to them, they'd come sit in my office in the mayor's office, and the first question I'd say to them, what's your hobby, what's your passion, what do your kids like to do? Oh, my son is a competitive swimmer, and I would actually, okay, let's go. We'd get in my car, we'd go to the Leisure Center, and I'd show them the AMAC Aquatic Club and the facility, or my daughter loves ballet. Walk them right over to the Esplanade and use those facilities to attract physicians. And we had a lot of success. Like, we were closing 30% of them. Maybe that doesn't sound like a great closure rate, but it was pretty good.
If you hit 300 in the major leagues, you're a millionaire.
Yeah. And use those facilities. And instead of sitting in my office and talking about how wonderful Medicine Hat was, I took them out and showed them. And it would win them over. And then I used to talk about the safety of our city and our downtown. Can't say that anymore. I used to say I'd look a physician in the eye, and I'd say, your daughter can walk in my downtown at night and she will be safe. I'd be lying if I said it now.
Yeah, and that leads us into the next question. What is happening in the downtown with the people who are down on their luck, homeless, perhaps mental health issues, perhaps they're into crime and drugs? There's a whole bunch of different branches in that problem.
Well, it's so complex. You can't even, it's like trying to fathom the size of the universe. It's just, the problems are so immense. And for one person or people to try to solve them, no community has been able to. If you could figure it out, you'd be a multi-billionaire because you would take the solution to every community and they would pay you to do it. It has gotten worse, obviously. I mean, and we're talking about 3 pillars, right? So the disenfranchised, the drugs, those people. And you have to have compassion for them, but they also need to be held accountable. I mean, you can't be destroying a guy's business. So I have a lot of compassion for the business owners. I've got, not me, but I've got $1 million, my entire net worth, risked on a business in the downtown, and I've got guys smashing my windows, or I got people who won't come in my store because they're getting harassed out front. I need compassion. We need compassion for that business owner. And then we need to have compassion for the rest of the community as well, for the people who won't go downtown because they're afraid. So there's really 3 pillars. And I know that I'm not going to say that this new council is going to completely fix it, but I guarantee it'll be better.
Attracting business too, we've also heard that perhaps there are roadblocks within City Hall towards developers, and the idea has been floated that maybe we need a single contact, a concierge, I think they've referred to it.
Yeah.
And yet, I don't know if that's a good idea or not.
I don't know. We did do that. So when we had Invest Medicine Hat, they had a hand-holding service. They would take you around to the different departments and show you. And frankly, I don't know what they're doing right now, if they're doing that or not. I'm not going to say they're not. But it was really important that we did that. When you came into the City Hall, you didn't get forgotten or dropped, right? So we used to do that. And I don't know that I don't know that it's worse than it was. I don't know that it was better when I was there, because I've heard that for 20 years. That, and people will always give you a story. Well, I went to Lethbridge and I was trying to build this house, and I got it approved in 3 days, and I came to Medicine Hat, it took 3 months. But then you go to Lethbridge, you hear the opposites. So everybody always complains about their municipality and that it's not doing it correctly. But a new council we've heard. I think the candidates have heard and take a good look at it and see if it has gone downhill in the last 4 years.
Medicine Hat Exhibition Stampede has come to the city several times in the last year, asking for help to refurbish and to expand their operation. If you were sitting around the council table, what would you be telling them?
This is also a difficult one. I was always a firm believer that we stuck to our lane. A municipality, that we looked after what we were supposed to: water, roads, sewers, pools, parks, paths, police, firefighters. And because of such a slippery slope of helping out different organizations, and but the Stampede, the Medicine Hat Exhibition Stampede is more than just the rodeo and the Stampede. Hundreds of events a year, money multiplier effect in the community as well. People come from out of town, spend $1, gets spent 7 more times in the community, and there's a lot of value there. So I'm going to be honest with you. In the last 4 years, I've disengaged. I quit reading the newspaper. I quit watching most media. And I haven't watched a city council meeting in 4 years either, not a single one. So I am not completely up to speed on all that's going on. I'm actually meeting with them a week from today, next Wednesday, and they're going to bring me up to speed on what's been going on for the last 4 years. And I'll have to make a decision then.
When you're looking at adding amenities and building facilities here, paying for them is the other half of that question. Mm-hmm. And people are saying, I can't afford another tax increase.
Absolutely.
So how do you balance that?
It's incredible. I mean, that's the job of a municipal councillor, is always balancing those wants and needs and the rights of the taxpayer. A lot of part of me would rather see investing capital in something like the Stampede, because they're going to run it. When the city builds something and then the city runs it, I almost guarantee that the Stampede Board will probably run it more efficiently than the city will. We looked at some of our rec facilities that maybe we could bring in, like the YMCA could run the leisure center. We figured they could probably do it better than we could. That never happened, but so there's a part of me that likes to maybe capital contributions are in some ways easy. It's a one-time.
One check, done.
That's it. It may cost quite a bit up front, but the operation of a facility over 100 years is amazing. Fire halls are an example. We built 2 new fire halls so we wouldn't have to build a 4th fire hall, if that makes sense. And we saved $3 million a year in operating by not adding another fire hall. And a fire hall only costs about $7 or $8 million. So by building those fire halls, we saved $3 million a year in perpetuity. After 10 years, it's paid for itself. So there's weighing so many different things.
Another project that is on the drawing board is the Samus Solar Project. Mm-hmm. Some have said we need that because we need to have renewable energy to attract some other industry to medicine that, and others have said it's a boondoggle, a waste of money.
Yeah. Once again, I have not kept track of all the financials on that, but I'll tell you what happened from my perspective. BP Energy came to me, I'm going to say 2016, sat in my office, and they told me about this project. And I was like, bring it on, guys. $300 million worth of investment in our community inside the city on sterile land. What could go wrong? They're going to pay for it. They're going to export to the grid. If there is a business that is looking for that, they can sign a power purchase agreement, take a megawatt, take 10 megawatts, whatever. I thought it was just a huge win, and I just couldn't wait for them to do it. I leave, and all of a sudden I'm like, we bought it. We own it now. How did that happen, right? And that's also what happened, I think, in Calgary. BP sold it off to ENMAX as well. And I'm like, well, what's going on here? So I'm in favor of the private sector building it. I don't know about us building it.
Yeah. What's the toughest part of being on city council?
For me, it was laying awake at night wondering if we were doing the right thing. You know, you're like, is there somebody better? I always had this self-doubt, like especially when I was the mayor, I was like, I have 63,000 lives that are depending on me, and I might not be the best person for the job. The best person for the job is out there somewhere. She's smarter. She's better educated, a better public speaker, whoever or he is. But they didn't run for mayor, and I did. And so I would lay awake at night going, am I doing the best possible job for the residents? And of course, you make mistakes, and if you beat yourself up on it, I think it's healthy to have that reflection. I always look at Michael Jackson, who was probably one of the greatest performers to ever live, whether you liked him or not, had stage fright. Before he'd go on stage, he's like, am I good enough? Am I good enough? And practice and practice and practice. And of course he was good enough. He was one of the greatest performers of all time. But he still had that self-doubt. And if you have that self-doubt, it means you still care.
Glenn Hall, one of the best goaltenders in the history of the National Hockey League, used to throw up before every game because he was nervous.
Yeah.
And if those nerves leave you, maybe it's time to leave.
You become complacent, right? You're taking it for granted, which I truly believe.
Okay. Ted Clugston, candidate for City Council, October 20th. Thanks for the visit.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome.